We got a tornado in Claremore. We got lots of flashes, blue light. Lord help everybody in Claremore right now. We're about 5-6 miles north of Claremore.
Hi everyone, Alex at Coram Farm. We are a year 3 Oklahoma flower farm that sells retail market bouquets from our roadside stand. In today's video, we are going to give you our May tour. If you are new to our channel or you missed our April tour, I will put that link in the description because I think it's really fun to see how things grow and develop on flower farms, and it's always helped me learn perspective on just what people are doing month to month, how the farm changes month to month. So go watch that for sure. But it's been a month and I think a lot is different because there's been so much growth, but there's also been a lot of issues. And the main issue is our weather here in Oklahoma this spring has been rough. We usually typically have wet springs and very dry summers, but this spring feels particularly unending in its rain and its storms, to the point where we've had a decent amount of loss in certain areas of the farm because we simply were never drying out. And so we had rot issues and we've had drainage issues. Some things we can work on and brainstorm to fix next year to have a little bit of better drainage and flow in some of our rows. Other things are just, this is weather and this is what happens and this is farming, and you just have to get through it and kind of hopefully plan so that you can make up for loss when it happens. But we wanted to give you an update in the beginning of this video about the tornado that went through our town last night. For those of you who have followed us for a while know that we live in Oklahoma. We live in northeast Oklahoma, which is outside of Tulsa, in the town of Claremore. And you might have even seen it on the news that we had an EF2 strengthened to an EF3 tornado go through our town last night. We live rural, about 15 minutes on the north side of town. So while we were under the tornado warning, we got in our storm shelter with the kids and stuff. Ultimately, the storm ended up tracking, unfortunately, straight through downtown and then east of Claremore. There's tons of damage downtown. A lot of buildings are wrecked and power is out. Mercifully, we are unscathed. We got more rain, which is hard. We got some wind, but everything's netted properly and we didn't have any damage. So we're thankful to the Lord for protecting our home and our farm. We're saddened for our town. Like I said, it happened last night, so there's a lot that we just don't know. But we wanted to give you an update because we got a lot of sweet messages of those of you that did see Oklahoma on the news and were worried about us. So we wanted to give you that update in the beginning here of the video. But let's get the tour started. We are inside our tunnel, and in row 1, where we had our ranunculus, that is terminated and covered. And here to my right in row 3, we have our Lisianthus planted in March, and it looks beautiful. We always joke about how slow they grow, but we have wonderful growth occurring. This is an echo mix, so that's why you see different heights here of growth, because it's going to be the different colors in the mix. But if you can see, we already have buds. I still don't think, Eric and I have a bet going, but I still don't think we will cut on them for another 3 weeks is my guess. So we'll have to see if I'm right in the June tour that we do. I think we have another 3 weeks, but we grew Lisianthus in our tunnel, or in our field last year. This is our first time in the tunnel. So we're learning a lot about growing flowers in a tunnel, seeing how the Lisianthus are gonna do, but based on their stem height right now, I think they're gonna be great bouquet quality for our customers in June and definitely in July. And we launched bouquet subscriptions this summer for the first time. So our July subscribers are really gonna get to enjoy the Lisianthus, which I'm excited about. Way back, I won't go all the way down there, but in the back is the very last of our Snapdragons. We are probably going to cut it down this week. They're cool weather snaps. They're tired. They have aphids. They're over it. We just haven't gotten around to cutting it. But here in this middle row is a little bit of our experiment section, because I want to see maybe which flowers might be tough enough to handle the summer in the tunnel because it gets so hot. So I have some Potomac heat-loving Snapdragons. I have Celosia here. And then when we cut down the snaps and that tarped area in a couple weeks, I'm gonna put in Marigold and basil. I'm really confident in the Celosia. I'm very interested in the Marigold and basil just because we have this space and our farm is petite and boutique size, and so we don't have a lot of expansion options. We have some, so we're probably not going to create more field space, but if I can identify what can handle Oklahoma summer tunnel life, it just gives us more space to grow on. So we'll see how these guys do. I don't expect to see them blooming until July and well into August, but that's what's planted in our tunnel right now.
Some of this. Like
This is our tour chalet.
Hey, we're tired.
We're tired. Can you tell? We didn't sleep last night because we had a tornado.
We're up till 3.
We had a tornado. We didn't sleep.
So here's your farm tour.
It's like a drive-by safari.
And on your right.
And on your right, you have
You
some
see the
dying
tall, long-necked
Buplurum.
snap lizards.
You have the dying Buplurum and the going to seed larkspur. You have areas which haven't been weeded and will not be weeded.
Oh my goodness.
We're in our field now, which is on the north side of our property, right in front of our flower stand. The field behind me is basically our annual field. It's where we do our spring annuals and our summer annuals. It is 60 by 60. Our rows are about 4 feet wide. Our walkways, because we get asked this, our walkways are about 3 feet wide. And yeah, it's looking wonderful. Row 1, we have planted sunflowers. Row 2, we have larkspur and Buplurum that needs to be cut down. It's part of tearing down for spring, getting ready for summer. Row 3 was our snap lizards. If you watched the April video, you'll understand why we're calling them that. So these need to be fully chopped down and silage tarp so we don't have to worry about the weeds all summer. We're not gonna flip them and plant them, mainly because we don't need to yet. You can grow, we always talk about this, you can grow so many flowers on a small amount of space, and when you overplant, that's just lost profit because of all that extra time. And so I could flip it because we have the space, but that would be a lot of product that probably wouldn't end up being sold in year 3 as we're building our customer base. It's just not worth it. We're gonna cut it down, we're gonna silage tarp it, and it'll be ready in the spring, or excuse me, in the fall, when we're ready to do our overwintered stuff like our tulips and larkspur again and that sort of thing. But we do have stuff blooming right now. My beautiful, how tall would you say these are? 3 feet tall Potomac Snapdragons. I mean, Snapdragons in the field kind of don't get better than this. You can get tall Snapdragons like this in a tunnel, but oh my gosh, I'm so proud of them in the field. These were planted end of March and they're Potomac, so they like the heat. And they just look beautiful. I think I'll probably get asked because this color, Eric, is just so vibrant. I'm looking to see if we have a tag. I'm almost certain this is Potomac Rose. I don't see my little popsicle stick, but I'm almost certain this is Potomac Rose. And then I have Potomac Lavender and Potomac Pink here. Oh my gosh, can you get that bumblebee like inside, like a little pollen hog? Look at his little butt. Where's he gonna go next? Get in there. It's a bumblebee getting him some Snapdragon snack. Okay, so these are our, I keep saying summer because it honestly was like 91 degrees, so I know it's technically not summer yet, but in Oklahoma it sure feels like summer. But these pink ones bloomed first, and they were in our bouquets last weekend. I think they looked beautiful. Our bouquets had sunflowers, the pink Snapdragons, some early status, and some yarrow that we have in our perennial garden. And I think it looked really great. The purples have just started, and then the pinks, which means our bouquets for next week will have a little bit of a different color palette, even though it'll be largely the same stems. I really like the purple with the yellow of the sunflowers that we're growing. It's a softer color than, you know, some of the zinnias will be in the summer when it starts to get bolder and brighter. So I have zero complaints, zero adjustments. Super happy with our field Snapdragons, and also one of the best parts is there's not an aphid in sight. I mentioned weather problems we're having and drainage. Towards the end of our rows, like the last 10 feet or so of our 60-foot rows, tend to get way more waterlogged. We're on a bit of a downhill, so that's how the water goes. And unfortunately, we've just been not able to dry out. And so even though the Snapdragons on the north side of the field look beautiful, we've had a lot of loss on the south side, which from a numbers perspective really sucks because you don't want to lose plants. But we see the problem. We'll brainstorm how we can make our rows a bit different and get the water to drain out of the field into this grass section area better, so we don't kind of lose the end caps of our rows. So that'll probably be a fall project. Nothing we can do now, but at least 2/3 or more of the Snapdragons are doing beautifully. Next to me here is our Status. We planted this at the same time as the Snapdragons at the end of March. It is a mix of colors, the QIS mix, I believe. It's always interesting with mixes because usually color groups will bloom at staggered times. And so if you can tell on the camera, all of the yellows are starting to get going with the purples soon behind them. So these yellows will be in our bouquets this week. I absolutely love Status. I think it's great. I love the vase life. I love the shape and form is like completely different than a Snapdragon, so it makes the bouquets look really interesting. And they just do well for us here. So lower bug pressure. I'm just really happy with them. It's a ton of Status. We'll see how much if I use all of it. If I end up doing some dried bunches, not quite sure, but everything looks beautiful in the Status row. Right, don't you think? Next to our Status, we have 2 rows of our first succession of Zinnias. I don't remember off the top of my head all of the colors we went with, but honestly, between the 2 successions, I feel like I'm growing every color of the Binary Zinnia variety. So it's the only variety we're growing of Zinnias. Well, and we have a couple we have a queen lime mix at the very end, but it's pretty much Binary. They look great. We have to corral them here pretty soon. I've definitely pinched them a ton, so they've gotten a lot bushier. They're putting on a lot of branches. We have a couple that really want to bloom here. I haven't decided if I'm gonna let them. But when I mentioned again this rain we're having, we definitely have some fungal issues occurring much earlier than it's typical for us because we're not drying out. So you can see here on some of them, we have it's called leaf spot, but then the one next to it, you know, will be doing a little bit better. So what I think I'm going to do tomorrow when I come out here is I'm either going to completely cut down ones that just seem too infected to nurse back. And then with others, I'm going to strip all the leaves. I'm going to pack them up and I'm going to get them out of the field because fungal issues spread, you know, with rain and wind and that. So I need to go through and kind of like strip them down to help slow the spread a bit because it's frustrating. In probably 3 weeks, the faucets will turn off and we won't get rain again for like all the summer. So it's frustrating to have like moisture water issues now when we know that like drought and running the irrigation all the time is coming. But that just seems to be what we have in store for us this spring. The top foliage, the new growth looks really healthy. It's the basal leaves that have the issue. So I think I'm just gonna have to come through and be really ruthless about getting out as much of infected material as I can and hope that because we did plant so much that from a stem volume amount, we have enough for our bouquets. And that's that. That's kind of what I mentioned about can't control how many inches of rain we get. No amount of proper planting drainage really fixes a fungal issue like this. Awesome. Oh, these are lace wings. I was like, what is flurrying around me? And it's all those like fairy lace wings. We love lace wings. Lace wings are popular. They eat white flies. They eat aphids. I know they're like little fairies, but then like right next to a fairy is like a cucumber beetle. So you win some, you lose some. Look at this. Look at us being all, bug in the face. Look at us being all biodiverse. It's so exciting. Biodynamic. Oh, okay. So these are also zinnias. They are our succession. So I planted these right after last frost, which was like mid-April. These are planted a month later. We planted them like a week or so ago. These are planted from plugs because If you guys also have watched our videos, you know we're pregnant with number 5. About the time I needed to start these, it was in the middle of our super busy spring season and I was overwhelmed with the amount of work. And so we decided to say, like, let's just pay for plugs, take that off my list of having to seed start. So we bought them from Plugs. Not a great experience with them, but I think that was more of an issue with the shipping and the supplier, because I usually have really great luck with Plugs, but I think they're transplanting well. I suspected we had way more like loss than we are having, so that's a blessing.
That's pole trucks, babe.
Oh yeah, that was electrical linemen going by to save people. I lost my train of thought. Oh, not too many have black spot, which is good. Some of them do. I might cull them, but these will bloom primo, those big binary blooms for us in July, like towards the end of July. These will hit us here in a couple weeks. So that's kind of our succession. We're closed in August. I don't try to keep plants alive in August. It's too hot here. We need a break, so we do 2 successions. If you are in a climate where you want to sell in in August, typically 3 successions, sometimes even 4 are recognized for zinnias, but we don't do that. And we don't sell them in the fall either. We focus mainly on sunflowers. So 2 massive successions of zinnias for us. Last row, row number 10, is kind of a hodgepodge of things. Here we have marigolds. In my original crop plan, I had way more marigolds planned, but I completely failed at starting them from seed, which is hilarious because they're supposed to be one of the easier seed starts. For whatever reason, big ol' fail. But these were their survivors, and honestly, the survivors look really strong and healthy. They are all from the Cocoa series, and they look happy. I haven't totally pinched, but at this point, I'll probably just have the first cut be a pinch. But they're strong, they're sturdy. Marigolds put out a lot of stems, so even this, what would you say this is, Eric, like 12 feet, have the potential to give me a lot of marigolds here in June so our bouquets in June will likely be sunflowers, status, zinnia, and marigold, which I think will make for a beautiful bouquet. After the marigolds are more celosia. So when I ordered Plugs, I ordered, I think, 2 trays, and I planted this whole section out with the Plugs, and then basically all of the extras was what you saw in the tunnel for kind of the experiment. But we have 2 different colors. I have terracotta and salmon. They're both kind of like peachy orange, but these will do fine. Celosia loves our heat. They tend to be a bit lower bug pressure. They'll get branchy, they'll get big. I'm excited to have the celosia probably closer into July. And at the very end here, again, not my best seed starting year, is my basil. This is lemon basil. Honestly, I'm kind of happy that my seed starting didn't go as great, because basil is hard to keep from wilting in a bouquet when it is hot out. And so even though the plants themselves do well in summer and they like the heat, once they're cut, they struggle a bit. And I'm really not wanting to grow any fussy flowers. I want to be able to have the flower stand open as long as we can to sell the most bouquets. And if I'm putting flowers in there that it's like, oh no, once it gets to be like noon, some of the flowers start to wilt, it's like, that's going to get the axe, because I can't be growing fussy flowers or flowers that limit us. So this is kind of where I'm at for the lemon basil, and they'll go in the bouquets. But I'm glad I didn't dedicate that much field space and actually gave it to celosia, which again, loves the heat. But the last part of our farm is the sunflower field. So I said I was taking you to our sunflower field, but really I was taking you to our sunflower jungle. Eric is in charge of sunflowers on the farm, and he gave me a jungle. You can't even tell that there's 9 rows here because they all just look like one, but they're going beautifully. Let me show you row 1. This is what we planted and gambled on in March. Again, if you watch that April video, you can see how much growth we've had. This is row 1. Row 1, we did white light. So white light is the one with the light face, the white petals. I like it for spring, but a good lesson that we learned, I think personally, is that white light takes a long time to mature, or I should say longer to mature than some of the other Pro Cut varieties. And we planted it when it's not as warm and the days are a bit shorter. And so because of that, it took a really long time to mature. We planted like early March and we cut on it May 17th. So I think we calculated like 77 days or something, which is definitely outside the typical Pro Cut window. I'm glad we have sunflowers still. I like them now. They're kind of essential for a focal, but I think in the crop planning next year, I might go with a different variety or switch it up a little bit. But they've been beautiful. They were in our bouquets last weekend. Row 2 is also going. Row 2 was Gold Light, and Gold Light matured faster. And so row 1 and row 2 kind of have matured at the same time. Let me show you this one. Gold Light has the pretty green face, which I think is also really nice in springtime instead of the black darker face, which I think is more quintessential summer flower. And so they kind of went at the same time. That was great because we had a lot of flowers. It's bad because we don't have enough cooler space. So that's a problem we're working on solving. But the sunflowers, even though it looks a bit of like a messy jungle, we are harvesting, I think I'm probably at least at like 600 stems probably. So these rows are winding down a bit. This will be the last week I cut on them. Eric will cut them down and cover them with a tarp probably next Saturday. And then row 3, all planted a week apart. Row 3 is just ready to get going. This is, everyone asks when to harvest sunflowers. This is when you want to harvest. It's called petal lift. This is a good comparison. See how you can see the face, but the petals haven't lifted off on this one yet. But in this one, they're just starting to raise up. This will give you the longest stem, or excuse me, the longest vase life when you store it in a cooler. So these I should definitely pick tomorrow morning when I'm out here, and I can store them till next Friday when I make the bouquets. The more they open, the shorter amount of time you can really hold them in the cooler well. If you're harvesting and you're going to sell them in a couple days, you definitely can harvest them more open, but you kind of have to harvest sunflowers when they're ready. They're a bit like tulips. It's like if you let them go too far, that's it for them. So you're just I'm constantly in the jungle. Sometimes Eric will look outside and they're so tall, I'm like in there, but I hold the flowers above. We have video of Eric doing this technique. You hold the flowers above, and I'm just kind of like walking through a jungle with stems. So we might plant a little less next year, but honestly, I'm not going to complain about having a lot of flowers for our customers. But yeah, we planted every week, and so I think it's always interesting. You can kind of see the progression of the growth. We also did different varieties. We have Orange Excel coming up, which will have the darker face, and then more Gold Light because we really love that. But all the way to this row at the end should take us through July, and then we're done because we close in August. But we will be planting to have them in September, and then early October before baby arrives, we'll have our sunflowers to go with our celosia. So that's our farm, our flower farm in May. Things are beautiful. In Oklahoma, early to mid, well, like through the 3rd week of May is our hard time to have flowers. If you're in a northern, more cold environment, you're coming into that period where you have a harder time having flowers in June, whereas we're rapidly transitioning into summer. But yes, we've had loss, yes, we've had frustrations, but overall, I'm just so thrilled with how year 3 is going. We've already beaten, like weeks ago, we beat our revenue from last year. We're hitting our goals. Our flower stand is doing so well. And so it would be, I think, a shame to get down and frustrated with things that didn't go as we hoped in light of all the other successes that we're having. And so I've got a document on the computer where I kind of like brain dump all the pros and cons that we're learning so we can apply them in year 4, but really try not to dwell on when I see things drowning or I see some leaf spot. If your hope is that your farm is perfect with no loss, you're going to be a very frustrated flower farmer, and it's not going to be a very good experience. So it's a good mental exercise. Really happy with our farm. Our customers seem thrilled with our flowers, and it's just a blessing, and I'm excited for summer. I'm a little nervous because I get more pregnant, which means I get more tired and hot, but from a flower perspective, things look beautiful, and I think we're gonna have a good summer. So thanks for watching, guys. Like and subscribe. I should have said it in the beginning. I know Eric always tells me maybe he can take this clip and transpose it, but Thank you for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next one.